Hi folks! So the annual end of the year channel recap is a little early this year, and I'll explain why later in the vid. For now, I'm going to talk a bit about how things are going, where things are going. I'm going to blather a bit about a couple of random WarThunder topics. I'm going to talk about my side channel. I'm going to throw some stats at you, and a few other random bits. But before I go any further, I want to drop a shout out to the narrator. Dude dropped a $99 super thanks on my F111A premiere on Friday. You, sir, are a scholar and a gentleman. Thank you so much. I can't even tell you how much a gesture like that means to me, and by the end of this vid, I think it'll make a little more sense why. Okay, so how are things going? In short, not great. Let's compare some performance here. In 2022, the channel gained 21,000 subs, was growing at about 1,400 per month, got 4 million views, and had 500,000 watch hours. Not bad. Well, 2023 hasn't been a good year for the channel. Now, with the disclaimer that there's still like a month and a half left, so these numbers are going to be slightly lower than how they look next month, but this last year, the channel only gained 15,000 subs, growing at about 1,100 per month, had 3 million views, and 316,000 watch hours. Those numbers are way down, and the reasoning is kind of multi-layered. Now, as some of you will remember, near the start of the year, I split off all of my non-WarThunder content onto 2 side channels. I set up a channel dedicated to Kerbal Space Program and one for all the rest of my variety content, like my Skyrim series, random game reviews, stuff like my Mortal Kombat retrospective and console rundowns, and now I'm getting into some Starfield content. I won't go into all the minutia again, but the long story short was that I had some YouTube experts kind of audit my channel, and the advice was that my non-WarThunder stuff was really holding back the stats on my WarThunder vids, because that was kind of my core audience. And it was confusing the algorithm about who exactly my audience was supposed to be. It made sense at the time, and the logic still holds. I had another review about a month ago. But the results haven't actually worked out very well. The stats on my individual WarThunder vids are pretty much flat and level with what they were in 2022, only like single-digit percentage growth on most metrics, and it hasn't kept pace with the rise in subscribers. And really, there's just a good chance that my style of WarThunder vids has simply plateaued, and that's fine. You know, before I say anything else, I want to be really clear. This isn't a whine, and I'm not complaining. It's just an observation of what the numbers look like. You know, I'm a big fan of transparency, so I like to show you guys how things are going. But for whatever reason, the community seems to prefer more meme-y WarThunder content with like goofy live commentary over some heavily cherry-picked matches, and the dumb British guy popping up in the bottom corner of the screen, that clip from that kid's show where he's going nice every time there's a kill, like super shallow analysis of aircraft that doesn't really go any deeper than shrugging and saying, shit's mid, it doesn't outturn the F-16AJ. You know, it's not my opinion. That's the stuff that the community gravitates towards. And, you know, that's fine. I'm not going to judge. But my style of deeper dive reviews certainly has an audience and a loyal following. And thank you. I love you guys. But my reach just isn't as wide overall. Now, the click-through rate on my vids remains pretty strong. The channel average is a little over 9%, which is incredibly high for a gaming channel. The average like ratio on my content is 98.6%, which again is very high. And the retention is actually a little bit better than it was last year. But the overall impressions on my vids are very low. That means that YouTube just isn't suggesting my content to as many people. The impressions is like how many times a video shows up on somebody's browsing page or their suggestion of what to watch next. YouTube just isn't pushing my stuff out very far. But back to the variety channel for a moment. Now, my plans for that have hit some serious roadblocks. I had gotten some initial bad information, and part of it's YouTube's fault because their documentation on some of this is terrible, but I had originally been led to believe that some of the YouTube features I have unlocked on my main channel would carry over onto additional channels that I create under the same account. Nope. It starts from scratch. So as a result, my variety gaming channel isn't able to do live streaming. I can't monetize the vids. It's not always letting me post links in the video descriptions. There are limits on how many long-form vids I can publish, stuff like that. And it's a real hassle. In case you're curious, all of that stuff is locked behind two primary stats: subscriber count and total watch hours. The variety channel is barely at 720 subscribers, which is kind of bad, and 400 watch hours, which is, again, pretty low. So if you really feel like helping me out, you know, feel free to drop a sub and throw my Skyrim playlist on, like, mute overnight for a week or something. I'll drop a link in a pinned comment, but my variety channel really needs some help. Now, moving all of my variety content off also had another side effect on the channel. I didn't realize how big of an impact this was going to be, but it seriously gutted the revenue I earn from YouTube. It turns out that over 45% of my channel's ad revenue was coming from my variety content. And as a result of that, the actual money I make off the channel, which wasn't a huge amount to begin with, has been cut by almost half. Since my variety channel is too small for monetization, it's just gone. Now, it's not a crisis or anything. You know, again, this is still a hobby for me. But I'll admit that it's pretty demoralizing. This is why it really lifts me up when, you know, I get one of those big super thanks or something like that. It reminds me that even if my audience is small, I've got a core who really enjoy what I'm doing. And that means a lot to me. I love you folks. So if you're one of those folks who's subbed with the bell and watches everything I upload, thank you. And even if you're not, thank you too, since you're here right now, right? But enough about the past, let's talk about the future. I've put in for some vacation time from my day job over the next couple of months, and I'm planning to use most of it to work on some unfinished projects. Mainly, it's about time for a revamp of my vids on, like, progression up the tech tree in WarThunder, grinding stock vehicles, and a few others. Plus, it looks like we're getting another batch of new radar features and UI changes in the December update. So my current plan is to redo those guides and get a radar warning receiver guide up at the end of next month or in early January. I'd wanted to do it sooner, but honestly, I kind of forgot that they do 2 updates at the end of the year. So I'm going to have to put that one off a little bit. Anyway, I'd also like to do more reviews of lower tier vehicles, but you guys just don't seem very interested. When I post vids about stuff below rank 5, they tend to get less than half the views of my normal vids. So if you're one of the folks asking me to do, like, more prop content and stuff, that's why there's not more of it. Don't know what else to say, man. People just don't watch it. Now, over on the Variety channel, I'm hopeful to get a bunch more Starfield content posted, both shorter vids like I have up there now, and a long-form series now that my last episode of the Skyrim playthrough is published. If I can get the stats up there, I'll also be doing more live streams of random stuff and doing, like, live chat with you fine folks. So we'll see what happens and how it pans out. There's also something else important that's coming up. I'm getting close to my 200th WarThunder vehicle review. Now, for my 100th review, I covered the P39 Q15, which is objectively one of the rarest vehicles in the entire game, and it could only be obtained by participating in the alpha test of WarThunder way back in the day. I've been playing this game for quite a while. But for the 200th review, I'm not really sure what I should do, and I'd love your input. Drop a comment if you want something specific, and I'll be putting up a poll asking, like, what you folks want to see. Maybe something else that's super rare, some crazy off-meta vehicle that's impossible to make it work, just a regular weekly update with nothing special, a tank, a boat, I don't know, you tell me. The last thing I want to mention about the channel is something I get asked at least once a week. No, I don't have an affiliate link to support the channel when you buy GEs and stuff, and you can't get my channel logo as an in-game decal. I wish that I did, but the short answer is just that I'm nowhere close to qualifying. I'd need to roughly double the average number of views on my routine weekly vehicle review updates in order to qualify for that level of the partnership program. And short of spending an enormous amount of money on ads or something, I don't really know what else I could be doing that I'm not already. You know, as I mentioned before, there's just not enough reach. So I don't really see that happening anytime soon. Well, enough about YouTube. There are some WarThunder topics I want to ramble about. First, the state of top-tier Air RB is a disaster right now. Next week's review is the MiG-29G, and I'm probably going to drop that on Tuesday, by the way. But you're going to get to see me pull off a couple of good 4K matches, along with an ace match that had some useful stuff in it that was worth putting in the review. And I also got a whole bunch of, additional high-scoring matches that I didn't put in the review, really because they were just too long or too boring. But I gotta tell you guys, the general state of top tier is chaos at the moment. No matter how good you think you are, no matter what you think about skill, most of the time these matches end up devolving into huge furballs with, like, missiles and cannon fire coming at you from 3 directions at a time. You're doing countermeasures nonstop. You've got teammates stealing your kills, deliberately or not. You've got friendly fire. You're getting 3-on-1'd. Oh, and everybody on the other team is a teenager amped up on Red Bull. So if you even blink for half a second, they beat you on the flick reflex and you're dead. It's rough. It's really exciting and I love it, but it's rough. And frankly, it's kind of difficult to get good footage with, which is something I kind of alluded to in my last channel update. I think going back to slightly smaller matches with less players per team might help alleviate this somewhat, but it's hard to know for sure. It would be a lot less chaotic at the expense of, like, you wouldn't be able to go out and carry your team and get 7 kills anymore because there's only 6 people on the other side, right? I don't know. BR decompression might help too, but either way, the state of top tier is just absolute chaos these days. It's widely anticipated that the end-of-year update is going to give us some more active radar missiles at top tier and more 4th-generation fighters, so honestly, I'm kind of worried that this might get worse before it gets better. On the upside, based on some of the data mines I've seen, it looks like we might actually be getting more air-to-ship content in the game. There was an exoset in one of the data mines, and they included the JH-7A in last week's update, which was primarily an anti-ship attack jet. That's something I'm pretty excited for, and it's always made me feel a little let down that we didn't get more opportunities to attack any naval vessels above BR5 or so. Now, another big important development is that the Snail has basically finished most of the stuff on their huge roadmap of changes. In case you were offline for most of the year, there was a bit of a player backlash a couple of months ago, as quite a few of you were pretty fed up with the way that the Snail monetizes the game, the way that progression is structured, and a whole bunch of other things. I had some words on the topic myself, as you may remember, but looking at where things are now, I've got to say, I'm generally happy with how it all turned out. Almost all of the changes they've made have been real, genuine reforms to the structure of the game's progression, and almost all of it has been positive. Now, I'm going to have more to say about it next month, as one of the things I'm going to do over those vacations I mentioned is updating my guide to progressing through the tech tree, but as a spoiler alert, it's generally a lot easier now. And a couple of the people I know in real life who left the game because of the crappy grind have come back and told me flat up that it's way better from the point of view of, a relatively new free-to-play player coming in, and that they're going to be sticking around this time. So not only am I generally happy with the changes, I'm hopeful that the devs and execs learned the right lessons from the whole situation and won't go back to the old ways. Time will tell, I suppose. The last major WarThunder topic I want to discuss is, believe it or not, naval battles, or more specifically, submarines. I totally lost track of time yesterday and ended up spending like 3 hours in the Battle for the Atlantic event, sailing around in a U-boat. Holy smokes, is that fun. If you haven't tried it yet, go check it out immediately. And I've got to say, if they actually add submarines as a regular thing, I'll unironically play naval battles more seriously and probably even do submarine content here on the channel. I'm really excited about that if it becomes a regular feature. Anyway, I've been rambling for a while, and that's about all I have for right now. Thank you so much if you are one of the awesome folks who watches, or just listens, all the way to the end. 2023 was a pretty crappy year, and I'll admit it's kind of demoralizing. But there's still room for 2024 to kick some ass, and if you're at all inclined, please feel free to go check out my variety channel. I'll put a link down in a pinned comment. As always, thanks for watching.